Welcome on into the Wolverine.com podcast. Clayton Safey here with Anthony Broom and Chris Ballas on Thursday, heading into Michigan against Central Michigan. The in-state showdown between the Wolverines and our Anthony Broom's alma mater, the Chippewas. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to give us a like on this video. We got to get to 300 on this one. Give us a like if you hope the Wolverines bounce back from their loss last weekend. Subscribe to the channel as well. Leave a comment. Let's get your final score prediction for this game, what you want to see from Michigan in this game. Leave those comments here below if you're watching on the YouTube version. Fellas, I'm excited to see AB's chips in the big house, man. Let's go.
I'm ready for next week against Nebraska, but that's okay. You know what? These are the get-well games, right? This is not the Central Michigan team that had enough talent to handle Michigan State 3 times in the 90s and 2000s. This is not a good football team, but it's a necessity. You got to get these sacrificial lambs in here every now and then to take care of business. And with all due respect, I say that with all due respect, Anthony.
Just because you say with all due respect doesn't mean you mean it.
Well, it sure as heck does.
Sure as heck does.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for this game, not only to see anytime, your alma mater plays in the big house. It's only happened once. I was there in 2013. It's cool, but at the same time, from a professional, what we do here standpoint, it's an incredibly important week for Michigan. And they've come into it saying that they were going to refocus on what the how looked like and how it looked. And I think how it looks on Saturday is incredibly important. I don't think this is a game where if they come out and win 31-14, I don't think that's going to inspire much of anything heading to that Nebraska game next week. So this needs to, yes, this is a non-conference finale. It's a bye game against a MAC opponent. But how it looks this week, I think, is more important than any of these first 3 games that we've played.
Yeah, the how. And even if it was 31-14, how did it become 31-14, I think is important. Is it a garbage time touchdown at the end that, gets them to 14 or whatever? So you're right. It's a big week for them to perform. This one will kick off at 12:01 Eastern on Big Ten Network. Jeff Levering, Jake Butt, Brooke Fletcher on the call for them. Both teams 1-1. CMU, 14-point underdogs in week 1. They go to San Jose State. They win 16-14. Last week at Pittsburgh, they lose 45-17, but that was a 7-point game late in the third quarter, 24-17. They were able to battle, and then things kind of fell apart there against Pat Narduzzi's crew. But Michigan 4-0 all-time against Central Michigan. The last meeting was 59-9 in 2013, the game you mentioned there, Anthony. The first meeting, 1931, a 27-0 shutout for Michigan in Ann Arbor. Michigan has outscored Central Michigan 285-33 across those 4 meetings. Michigan's 36-1 against the MAC, outscoring the MAC 1,355-360 in those 37 games. The only loss coming in 2008 to Toledo. Very, very rough moment for Michigan football. But CMU 6-30 against the Big Ten. 3 of those wins coming against another in-state school, Michigan State. And CMU with 6 wins over the power conference opponents since 2009. So they're capable, but they haven't had one here, I think, since 2014, maybe against Purdue. But Matt Drinkle, Anthony, you guys made a great hire, I think, with this guy. And he had a great comment this week on his press conference talking about Joe Labus, the starting quarterback, who we'll talk about here in just a second. And he said, yeah, Labus, was hurt at the end of last year. He entered the transfer portal when there was a coaching change. They tried to convince him to leave, and he's like, think of this. It's a death sentence for a quarterback. You're hurt. You got a year of eligibility left or 2, I think. You're trying to play somewhere, and you hire an offensive line coach from Army. He's like, this is that's a tough situation. He's talking about himself, but they convinced him to stay. He started, but they played 3 quarterbacks. Matt Drinkle, of course, was on the other sideline when Michigan and Army faced off in 2019. He was an offensive quality control coach back then in that overtime game. I would say thriller, but it really wasn't all that thrilling of a football game. Biff Poggi will be his opponent this weekend. Francis Xavier Poggi on the other sideline as Michigan's interim head coach. Just a fascinating dude. What are your guys' thoughts on Biff taking over this weekend?
I think it was obvious when Chip decided he was calling plays in the box that it was going to be Biff, and I don't think he's going to have a whole lot of say in what goes on. Maybe, do we go for it on 4th and 2 or something like that? But as I think Sharon made it pretty clear when he was talking about the operation not changing, that, okay, Chip's in charge of the offense and Wink's in charge of the defense. In fact, he even said that JB Brown is in charge of the special teams. So what does that leave Biff Poggi in charge of? Just kind of making sure that everything's running, I guess, and just kind of the figurehead and the guy that talk to the officials and yell at the officials if things aren't going well, and maybe have a say in, are we going for it here on 4th and 2 or whatever. Frankly, I'm looking forward to a little bit of a different approach. So maybe he'll bring that when it comes to those types of decisions and being a little bit more daring. So, but he was really the confidant for Jim Harbaugh. So having him in there, the kids seem to love him. It's fine. It's, to me, it's whatever. And hopefully get through these next 2 games 2-0, and you get your head coach back.
Yeah, it's very much like having a substitute teacher, right? Where the teacher leaves behind the lesson plan for the day and how they'd like that day to look, and how they'd like those couple days to look. They're not there, and you just hope that you don't come back to a classroom that's on fire. That's kind of the MO this week. I could say that. Mom was a teacher. My wife's a teacher. Know how that works. Clayton did a great story the other day with the guy from Charlotte, talking about him as an actual football coach. Seems like there are some game management concerns there, but on the same token, I have those same concerns with Sharon Moore anyways. So I don't expect it to look a whole lot different, though. I do wonder, like, when the substitute teacher is away, the classroom gets a little chattier. Sometimes people do things that you wouldn't necessarily do if the boss was around.
I was guilty of a lot of that. Yeah.
As
I was
was
a
I.
smart ass. Go figure.
As was I. And I wonder if maybe, I know we're going to talk offense, defense, all that, but I just wonder if we see a team play a little more aggressive and have a little more fun this week. And that's not saying they're not having fun under Sharon Moore, beating Ohio State, Alabama, incredibly fun things that have happened with Sharon Moore on the sideline. But I think Zach Marshall said it the other night, they expect to be moderately pissed off because they want to play for Sharon Moore in this game. There's no reason that this should be any tighter than the line would indicate it will be.
Yeah. I loved that quote from Zach Marshall. One of the best interviews on the team, the junior tight end, moderately pissed off. I don't know how that looks on a football field. You're not going to really notice any differences, I would imagine. But remember when Jim Harbaugh was suspended a couple of years ago, that East Carolina game where they lined up in the train formation, they all held up the number 4. Sharon, I think, was number 77 at Oklahoma, so that might be a little bit tougher, and he didn't play at Michigan, of course. But, yes, Biff Poggi, the man who turned a $25,000 investment from his father-in-law into hundreds of millions of dollars in his hedge fund, the man who drives a $475,000 Rolls Royce, will be on the sideline wearing sleeves, apparently, for the Michigan Wolverines this weekend. So, and he'll be running under the tunnel. And I asked Jaden Mangum about that the other day, and he started laughing, envisioning Biff running down there at 66 years old, but should be an interesting look nonetheless. Let's talk about the Michigan offense against this Central Michigan defense. And I think a lot of people disappointed with clearly the way the offense played last week. The offensive line performed. The play calling, the game plan coming in seemed conservative, especially on some of those third downs. They go 1 of 9 when they threw on third down. They threw short of the sticks 6 of those 9 pass attempts, a lot of screens, a lot of handoffs. And I think it's an opportunity, though, against the Central Michigan defense that has been really poor against the pass so far. And I watched the entire CMU Pitt game last night, and there were guys running wide open all over the place. I hate to break it to you, Anthony. And I'm just kidding. Coverage.
Anthony's resigned.
I know. I'm just messing with him. But
listen, I got my alma mater win at Michigan out of the way during that basketball game 2 years ago where there were only 12 people in the stands. So we got that out of the way already.
All right, good.
And 10 of them were CMU fans. Yeah,
That's right.
And one of them was a writer that was there, I think, right? So yes, there were receivers running wide open. The you have to give Pitt credit. Eli Holstein, their quarterback, is good. It has a really good arm, and they have some talent over there. But Michigan's got some talent too. Michigan has a quarterback with a really good arm as well. So I would imagine they open it up a little bit more. CMU is allowing a bunch of big plays, 13 plays of 20-plus yards. That ranks 119th in the country through 2 weeks. 12 of those have been through the air. They're allowing 8.4 yards per pass. I did think the run defense was pretty good against Pitt. And then Pitt just decided to just start throwing it all over the yard, and that worked. But I think that you'll see some more opportunities for Bryce Underwood in this game.
Yeah, I do too. And no need to really run him this game, right? But I think you're going to see an offense similar to what we saw in week 1, where they put the ball in his hands a little bit more, some more RPOs, let him make some decisions. Of course, it's a lot easier, right, when you're playing an overmatched defense. So how overmatched will they be depends on what the offensive line looks like. I don't know what CMU's defensive line or front seven looks like, but I'm sure it's not nearly as good as Oklahoma's. But that doesn't mean that you can't scheme the same way. If you see some things on film, how did they take away the RPOs? How did they take away some of the things that Michigan likes to do on offense? So I would imagine they will learn from that. So will it be easy? Who knows, right? Who knows what to expect, especially if it's a piecemeal offensive line with guys playing out of position. I doubt that Gio Al-Hadi will play, right? I can't imagine that's going to happen. And boy, if that's not pass interference, then it's at least holding, isn't it? By the way, the picture that we're showing up there. I'm sorry, folks who are listening, but we're showing photos here of all the holding penalties in the Oklahoma game. And our Isaiah Hole, our buddy over at Wolverines Wire, had a ton of them too. But man, they didn't get a very good whistle that night. So anyway, regardless, that's coming back to Bryce. I think that turn him loose a little bit, right? And get more comfortable in the passing game. And hopefully, guys, this thing starts to gel a little bit better, because next week is the big test. Next week is really the game, in my opinion, that's going to determine the direction of the season.
Yeah, I think the one thing, and I had only watched, I haven't seen much of the Pitt game yet because I just haven't got around to it, but I did watch the entire game that they played against San Jose State. And CMU's physical on both sides of the ball. I think it's, you look for when you're such a big favorite in a game, you look for the little areas where you could be tested. And, for a Michigan offensive line that, yes, you're probably going to be down Gio Al-Hadi, but even with him, questions about physically imposing your will and moving guys off the ball. I think this is going to be a good test for them. And I'd agree with you. I think the run defense probably way ahead of their pass defense right now. And it's where I think this relationship between Bryce Underwood and Donovan McCulley is going to be something that I think can take a big step forward, because we did see them target him down the field. He had that 44-yard catch in that Oklahoma game. But 3 catches on 9 targets, they're just not quite on the same page yet. And it does seem like that downfield passing, and we're not even talking the deep balls. I mean, we're talking the intermediate shots between, 10, 15 yards, whatever it is. It seems like that's something they want to do a little bit more. Got to block and give your quarterback time to make those plays as well as getting him on the move. They don't necessarily need to run Bryce Underwood to, I think, unlock what he does super well. So those are kind of the areas I'll be honing in on offense this week. I think there's probably going to be big plays to be had through there. There's probably Justice Haynes is probably going to rip off another long run. I think those plays will be there. It's just a matter of, I want to see them, even with Sharon Moore not there, you want to see this team offensively pick an identity, and that's what they build around moving forward. Things were way too tentative, and we use the term lack of conviction a lot over the last week or so. You just want to see them run what they're going to run and do it with confidence.
Yeah, I agree. And it will be interesting with the run game. And yeah, you have these big plays that Justice Haynes is creating, but it's interesting that they have not been generating those 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-yard runs or 12-yard runs. And it is interesting. Sharon Moore mentioned it on Monday, how a couple of years ago when he was the offensive line coach and offensive coordinator against ECU, I believe was the game he was referring to. And a couple of those games early in the 2023 season, they were getting a lot of those 6, 7, 8, 9. They weren't getting the big ones, and everyone's wondering where are those, Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum runs, and then they ended up coming right at the end of the year against Washington in the national championship game. Blake breaks out a huge one down the sideline even after Donovan Edwards ran for 2 really long ones. So sometimes those will come. This might be more concerning, though, that you're getting a couple long ones because you have a great back, and you did open some holes on a few plays there, but consistently you're not really doing that. Michigan has 4 plays of 40-plus yards this season. That ranks 14th in the country, but they're 121st in the country with only 17 of 10-plus yards. The run game, those 4 rushes of 10-plus yards, all of them are over 50 yards. Or 3 of them are over 50 yards. So 3 of 4 are 50-yarders, and you only have 4 that have gone for 10-plus total. So you kind of want to see them maybe gash Central Michigan a little bit more. But like we said, they actually did stop the run pretty well the first couple of weeks. Stay away from turnovers, I think, obviously another key in any game, but CMU's forced 4 through 2 games this year. A pick kind of changed the complexion of the game last week against Pitt. Pick late in the first half allows CMU to score. Then they scored again right after the half, kind of won that middle portion of the game. And you don't want it to really be one of those games. You want to be able to just keep your foot on the gas in this game, I think, and really put up a good, inspiring offensive performance that creates some rhythm for you, creates a lot of confidence for you going into a much bigger game the next week.
Yeah, and that's pretty much sums it up. And I'd like to, you said, I'd like to see Jordan Marshall get going here. He has more to give. I have no question about that. So, and again, part of that comes with the rest of the offense doing their jobs too. The big runs, you need the receivers to do their share of blocking right on the big ones. But they've got to get to the second level and make it a little easier for these guys to only have one guy to miss here to break off some of those 10-yard runs. So let's see what happens this weekend. And yeah, I don't have anything else to say.
I would just say that the body blows are what are going to open you up to having more of the big runs that they've had. If you can find a way, just even get 3 yards. I mean, we're talking, I think last week when you take out the Justice Haynes run, it was like 2.34 yards per carry or something like that. So, not looking for you to be 3 yards in a cloud of dust, so to speak, but cloud of dust, I should say. But yeah, it just needs to be a little more better and a little more consistent there.
No question. Let's move it over to the Michigan defense. But before we do, we have to talk about our sponsor, Gametime. Football season's back. Tailgating season is back. Take the stress out of buying tickets with Gametime. They're the official ticketing partner of the Wolverine podcast. It is the best place to buy tickets and get in the Gametime guarantee. Means you can trust you'll get 100% authentic tickets on time and at the best price. I've used it, get tickets to Lions games, Tigers games, have some family come into the Michigan game this weekend. You get the text early in the week, hey, where can we get tickets? Are they going to come down? All these things. You just send them Gametime. You send them the promo code ON3. My favorite feature, you can view what your seats could look like when you're perusing the options there on the Gametime app. Gametime has the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, and more. Gametime has the lowest price guarantee, or they will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code ON3 for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code ON3, that is ON in the numeral 3, for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Gametime app today. Michigan may be getting Rod Moore back on defense. That is something that I'm excited to see. Sharon Moore said on Monday that there's a high probability he will return, and he'll be going, I think it's good to get him reps and, kind of allow him to get comfortable. We saw when he came back from knee injury in 2023, he really started to play in that Big Ten opener against Rutgers. And early in that game, he misses a tackle that went for a long touchdown for Rutgers. It's he has not played in a long time. He hasn't played in a game since the national championship. So getting him comfortable, I think, will be important if you do see him out there. I wonder how many snaps it'll be. But this is a CMU offense who is really unique. They play 3 quarterbacks. Joe Labus is the starter, but they will sprinkle in Jaden Glasser and Angel Flores. And it's not situationally. They can all run and throw, and they all actually throw it pretty well. I think Flores is clearly the fastest and the most explosive, and they'll run him a little bit more than the others. But all of them will throw when they're in the football game. Collectively, they've completed 70% of their passes, but they don't throw much. This is a team that wants to be physical, as you mentioned, Anthony, kind of the identity of Matt Drinkle that he's trying to bring into this program. He's also trying in these games against bigger opponents like Pitt to chew the clock, take a lot of time, shrink the game. He said this week about last week's game against Pittsburgh that they wanted to kind of just chew a bunch of clock in the first half, make it a 30-minute game, get things tight. And they kind of did that. Like I said, it was a 7-point game late in the third quarter. Things fell apart, but they were kind of in that zone that you want to be in late in the third quarter against a team like Pitt on the road, against a team like Michigan. Even bigger challenge, of course, this week. But they run the Maryland I formation, which I love. Used to run that back in the college football video game back in the day. 2 fullbacks in front of the halfback. They'll run unique diamond formation in the pistol with 2 backs next to the quarterback and 1 behind them. And they're going to go for 4th downs. He was aggressive on 4th and 8 from the 47, 4th and 1 from the 31, their own 31. So it's kind of an interesting offense, probably the only team in the country playing 3 quarterbacks consistently throughout portions of the game when it really matters.
Yeah, and if you have 3 quarterbacks, you don't have one. Is that what the saying is?
The old adage, yeah.
The old adage, the old cliche. So, you know what? If they can't stop the run against these guys, and give them credit, you know, I do think they're a well-coached football team, and I do think they're going to have some success. They just don't have the horses to get this done against Michigan this year, in my opinion. So I do want to see the Michigan front 7 play a little bit more aggressively. I think Rayshawn Benny has some more to give. I was disappointed, frankly. I know the defense played okay overall on Saturday night against Oklahoma, but losing too many one-on-one matchups and too easily blocked, too many stalemates, in my opinion, at the line of scrimmage. I don't think that'll be the case against Central Michigan. If it is, then maybe you have bigger issues. So I think it's going to be really, really hard for Central Michigan to move the ball. Like Clay said, they don't like to throw a ton. So if the running game isn't going, what do? Right? Then you're kind of screwed. So we'll see. But again, this is going to be critical for the Michigan defense to really preparing for next week, right? Don't give up the big plays. Just everybody be in the right position, right? Do your jobs, and just one more warm up for what should be a big game next week.
This is a really strange team because you bring in a coach from Army, but they don't run the triple option, but they do have 3 quarterbacks. And all of them can do everything they ask them to do. So in a somehow weirder than the team that Jason Eck brought in here with New Mexico a couple weeks ago. I think that New Mexico is probably better. Defensively, I just think it's all about discipline this week. It's all about good habits. I don't, CMU's got a wide receiver who's 6'5", but I just don't. They want to run the ball and get downhill on you. And that plays right into what should be a pretty lopsided advantage for this Michigan defense, especially the defensive line. So like I said, though, they are physical up front there. They're not going to be afraid to get locked in a battle with Michigan's defensive line. But at the end of the day, it's fun if you're a Central Michigan fan, that you might be able to do some weird things that can cause a Power 4 team to have some fits like they did against Pitt last week, or like they did as 2 touchdown underdogs a couple weeks ago against San Jose State. But in a game like this is where you want to see Michigan flex how much better it is, on their side of the ball. So maybe there's a trick play in there or something, but I don't even know that they have the firepower to do what New Mexico did with the opportunities that they had a couple weeks ago. So there's really no reason that this should be any resistance for the Michigan defense.
Yeah, I think if CMU gets to double digits, it's, I guess before mop-up duty from some 3s and 4s on the depth chart, that would be somewhat disappointing from Michigan's defense perspective. They're going to run a lot. Like we mentioned, they've run the 15th most in the country. and they're only averaging 2.9 yards per carry. The offensive line does not look very good. They were getting blown up, pretty consistently by Pittsburgh, who ranked 13th last year in the country in total defense. So, and Pat Narduzzi always has good defenses. But Michigan should make it very similar of a challenge for CMU to run the ball. Would love to see the front seven dominate. They do have some good receivers. They've only thrown it 40 times this year, but some of the catches these dudes were making against Pitt were really impressive. A bunch of contested catches, a couple one-handed, like as they're leaping in the air catches. The tight end looks pretty good, Decorian Temple, who had a touchdown against Pitt. And the receivers are pretty athletic, and you mentioned that one of them 6'5", who has made some really nice catches as well. The drive that they went on to make it a one-score game against Pitt in the third quarter, they pick up 2 4th and 4s. They had all these crazy catches. The margin was so slim, but they got all the way down there, and they capped it off with a touchdown by Temple. So they are capable through the air. They just don't seem to want to do that right now when they're establishing their identity and they're trying to chew clock against these better teams in a big environment on the road. Although it could be a different game plan this week. So we'll see. But they did find some success through the air last week. Their kicker, 4 of 5 on field goals so far this year. 41 is his long. He missed a 51-yarder. So they trust him from 50 plus, but he missed a 51-yarder in the opener. So keep that in mind when people out there are leaving their predictions in the comments below here on YouTube. That if you want to go with 6 or 9 or 12, how many is this guy going to hit? Cade Graham, kid out of Caledonia, Michigan. Anything else on the Michigan defense? I think a lot healthier in the defensive backfield. I think that's going to be important. Zeke Berry seemed like that was a minor injury, and then Sharon Moore says Monday that Caleb Anderson, Shamari Earls should be back. So would be nice to see Shamari Earls out there. I think that I'm excited to watch that number 2 on defense.
Yeah, me too. And that's about it. Again, this is just one of those games. Get through it, get to Nebraska, and let's see what you got next week, because next week is going to determine the course of the season.
I'd just be interested if Rod Moore plays like we think he's going to. How much is he going to play? Is this a game where? What's that?
And how well? Yeah.
And how well? I mean, even if it's not how well, like he had the injury a couple of years ago where he started out slow, and then by the end of the year, he was the Rod Moore we all know and love. So. We'll see. Just going to be important for him to knock the rust off and see what he's got there.
Let's make our predictions for this game, and they are brought to you by BetMGM. The Wolverine is teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks. We'll have special offers for our listeners each week. When you join BetMGM, you get access to a variety of parlay selection features like same-game parlays, live betting options, and more. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code ON3. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use the bonus code ON3 when you sign up. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3. Get your $1,500 first bet offer today. Make this college football season one for the history books. Make it legendary. All right, offensive player of the game against Central Michigan for the Wolverines. I will start with the quarterback, Bryce Underwood. We mentioned the pass defense from Central Michigan not being the best. I think Michigan's going to open it up a little bit more. Make sure that he continues to build that chemistry with his receivers, try to get the pass protection right. That's an important aspect of it too. But I think that he's going to have a pretty big day statistically in this game and a nice bounce back from completing only 38% of his passes last week.
Yep, I agree with that. I think there's going to be room to throw. I think that the central corners aren't going to be able to press and handle the Michigan receivers like Oklahoma did. I think Underwood has a nice day.
I'm going to go with Donovan McCulley, who has a nice day thanks to Bryce Underwood taking a couple shots down the field.
Okay, I like it. Had a big day last week as well. I would love to see them build off of that. Anthony, who's your defensive player of the game?
Defensive player of the game, I'm going to go with Ernest Hausman. I didn't think he had a great game in Oklahoma last week. Just certainly not in coverage. Those coverage grades on PFF were not good, and the eyeball test bared that out as well. So Ernest Hausman's going to bounce back this week and have a nice game.
I think Jayshon Barham is going to wreak havoc on that Central Michigan offense. I think he's going to be all over the field. He flies around out there. He's a difference maker. So I don't think they're going to be able to handle his speed, and I think they're going to do a lot of different things with him on Saturday.
I got Ernest Hausman, same with Anthony. I think that they're going to stack up this CMU run game, and Hausman's just kind of a tackling machine at this point, and I expect him to have a big day. My X factor is going to be Nate Marshall, maybe, and he earned some snaps last week when in a big game, but I think he'll get a lot of snaps maybe in the second half in this game, and you just tell this kid, go get the quarterback, and man, he's a freak athlete.
Mine's Jordan Marshall. I think this is the week that he's got to break out. I think he's got it in him. We've seen it in him. We've heard great things about him, and he just hasn't gotten it going, but I think this is the week he gets it going.
About Rayshon Benny, a guy that we've talked about needing to see a little bit more from, the tip of the spear on the Michigan defense, so to speak, and I think he'll have a big game and help bottle up that CMU run game.
Michigan, a 27.5-point favorite on BetMGM. Over-under is 42.5. Chris, what is your final score?
38-10 Michigan. These always seem to be in the 38-10 range, don't they? Or 37-6 or something like that. So I think that Central Michigan gets a touchdown either on a broken play or maybe late in the game when the defense's fourth string is on the field.
I have Michigan 38, Central Michigan 3. I think it will be a mostly cleaned but imperfect performance on offense and on defense. You know, every time you every time you want to pick the shutout, you're just like, they're probably going to get a field goal out of it somewhere. So that's how I feel about that. 38-3 Michigan.
Yeah, when you got Cade Graham on the other side, the Caledonia kid, then it's going to be tough. This kid, he was a student at CMU for 3 years and then walked on after that. I give him credit. He's 4 or 5 so far in the year. So that could happen. I'm saying he makes an extra point. I'm saying Central Michigan scores 7, but I got Michigan scoring 52. I think it's going to be a blowout win for the Wolverines. Get this offense going, and I think it should be a fun day on Saturday. The weather looks good. I believe, 80 and maybe cloudy, but it's going to be an awesome day at the Big House. Only 2 of 6 days that we get to spend in that stadium, so cherish all of them. Hope to see a lot of people there. All right, No Man Knows the Future is up next. We'll pick 5 games from around college football this season. We got the records. I'm sitting at 5-5, steady Eddie, 500. Chris Ballas at an impressive 7-3. We got his picks at dinner on Friday night. He missed the podcast and went 3-2 last week, but was hot coming out of the gates in week 1 at 7-3. Anthony, I texted you before this. He's already hiding his face. I texted him. I said, I apologize in advance for this, but Anthony with tons of time, a lot of football left. This is why I say, like, when a friend, triple bogeys, hole 2, you say a lot of golf left. A lot of football left this season, but Anthony's sitting at 2-8, an 0-5 week last week, and I'll defend him for a second. He didn't want to pick Oklahoma State, but he did because he had an interaction in the airport, and I convinced him to pick UCLA. So, Anthony, I don't know if you had to think.
That's not that Oklahoma State. That's a guest pick. That doesn't count for me. So I'll take the 0-4.
Okay,
but I'll put the 5. The asterisk. No, I'll take it. It's fine. No man knows the future, or this man doesn't know how to predict games. So,
I mean, you're proving. We're all proving it, or at least me at 500, you at 2-8, Chris on a heater at 7-3.
And I do want to say that I wanted to change my Illinois pick before the game against Duke, but didn't have the time. So anyway, and Andrell Anthony, man, if Anthony Broom could have picked Andrell Anthony last week as his player for the game against Duke, you know what? You would have known the future.
We were all thinking it.
Yeah. We sure were. All right, what do we got?
We have Wisconsin at number 19, Alabama. Alabama's a 20.5-point favorite. Over-under is 46.5. This game at noon Eastern on ABC. Wisconsin likely to be without Billy Edwards Jr. That plays into it, but I got Alabama winning. I know people are down on them, but I think they destroy Wisconsin in this
Yeah, I
game.
think they do too. I think they cover that, and Wisconsin in that environment is not going to be able to cover the 20.5.
I have that as well. I think this is going to be the beginning of a very bad stretch of Wisconsin football. It's going to be ugly.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think people will be interested to see how this game goes, although it'll be going on during the Michigan game, but Michigan gets them in a few weeks. Number 6, Georgia at number 15, Tennessee. Georgia's a 3.5-point favorite on the road. Over-under is 49.5. This game, 3:30 on ABC. I got Tennessee. I'm going with Rocky Top to cover this 3.5. You give me some points at that stadium, I'll take it. And I think I like their quarterback in the early going. He's performing well. Joey Aguilar, the App State transfer.
I like Georgia to win and cover. I think that they are going to – I think they're going to win by about 10 points in this game. I just think they're a better team. I don't trust Tennessee.
Give me Georgia.
I love it. USC at Purdue. USC's a 20.5-point favorite. Over under 58.5. 3:30 on CBS. Another not so great matchup for Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson. I think it's Danielson's last year in CBS. They're getting some of these games early that are not that great, but USC's just been killing teams, terrible teams. I don't think Purdue's going to be very good this year. I predict USC just remains on the whatever sort of war path that they're on right now.
Yeah, I like USC to cover. I think Purdue's still terrible, right? And I think USC has a lot of playmakers. I'm not feeling great about this pick for some reason, and maybe it's the travel, but I am going to go with USC to cover that.
I'm going to go with USC as well, but I have those same reservations about the travel and whatnot. And have they been too hot? Are they due to cool down? That's a question mark.
They could be. They were not very good in the Midwest last year, so this would be at least something they could build on if they do get a big win there, or win by a big margin. Number 18, South Florida at number 5, Miami. Miami is a 17.5-point favorite. Over under is 57.5. 4:30 on the CW, the crosswalk. South Florida is the talk of college football right now. They killed Boise. They stunned Florida last week. They're going for another in-state win. It's like that Grim Reaper meme of them just knocking on all the doors. But I do think Miami. I got to stick with my guy. He's become my guy, Carson Beck. I think that offense is electric, and they are going to win by more than 17.5. I'll give the points there.
I'm going with South Florida. I think that they're being disrespected here, and they're going to see what Clayton Safey said and put it on the bulletin board. And they aren't going to win, but they are going to stay within 17.5 points. They'll lose by about 10.
CW, huh? I'm going to go with South Florida, and then I'm looking forward to catching a rerun of One Tree Hill when this game is over.
Nice pull.
UCF or USF, now they're going to hate me for sure. Their fans should see where I had them in the AP poll this week. It was not very high. Number 16, Texas A&M. This is our final game. They're at number 8, Notre Dame. Notre Dame's a 6.5-point favorite. Over-unders 49.5, 7:30 on NBC. A&M's been giving up a lot of points. Notre Dame at home. I thought Notre Dame, they're stewing over this. I don't think they've played in a couple weeks, right? They are feeling like they need to let out some anger from what happened against Miami, and I think that the Irish are going to cover that 6.5.
I agree, but just barely. So, but playing at home, I like Notre Dame.
I think Texas A&M is one of the most fraudulent programs in this country right now. Give me the Irish.
There you have it. That is our show for this week. Make sure to like the video if you're watching on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button as well. Leave a comment. Give us your final score prediction. And as always, we'll have the coverage from the Big House. Head to thewolverine.com. You can use the promo code UM1 right now for 2 months of access for just $1. And we will see everyone next time.